Okay, today I'm going to be showing you how to open the master Sesame Luggage lock. And this is a lock I actually found over at my cousin's house. And I was, you know, it just figured, this would be, he would have the one out of all the cheap luggage locks out there, he would have the one that I didn't have the 10-second trick to, you know. I mean, like the TSA luggage locks that I like to beat up because they're easy to. What is it? There's, plenty of ways. Like, you can like look in between the dials and the body of the lock, and you can see the notches to decode it. And it only takes about 45 seconds. And in the case of like this one, that they've been advertising, has the little green light, lets you know if TSA opens it. You can still just read the dials. It takes 45 seconds versus 5 seconds with the key. But, that's not 45 seconds to keep the green light on. So anyways, you can, read through, you can look through and you can see it. And on some of the other ones that I haven't seen, I guess you can't see through, but there's still enough space that you can put a little piece of metal through to feel for the notches. Well, on the master padlock, the dial and the body are pressed tightly together. You can't see anything, and you can't stick any pieces of metal in there to feel for notches. So, that quick tricks, you just can't do. One of the other things I found that I was surprised I hadn't heard of online was that you can just pull the shackle on these locks, and when you turn it, some of them will have tension, like in this case, this one's got a ton of tension on the last dial right now, and it's kind of like lock picking, or no, I don't think safe cracking, but sort of like lock picking. You put, because each one of these has a little notch, it's getting pressed against the dial when you pull on this, and the one that's, ideally, in the case of, trying to break it, and made perfectly once a dial, and there's extra tension just on one until it gets to the right combination, and there's extra tension on the next dial, and you work your way through to find the right combination. On this one, though, the problem is there are little pins at each dial, and these pins, I don't know if they intended to, prevent the method I was just talking about, or if it was just something to keep the dials from spinning and to make it a little bit nicer. Anyways, you can hear those pens clicking and the notches between the numbers if I be quiet for a second. Yeah, so each one of those little clicks was, the pen falling in between these notches. What that does is when you pull on the shackle, it just gets locked. It's, really difficult to tell which one's binding. Right now I can, actually. These last two, I think. But still, it just makes it more difficult, and in the end, I couldn't get it, I just couldn't get it with those little pins. And I tried taking, lock picks and sticking them in there, but then when you try and turn the dial, they just get jammed up. So what I ended up doing was coming up with these little metal strips about the same width as the dial. I'll pause for a second, see if you can see that. And these little metal strips are made out of an Arizona green tea can. Arizona green tea cans are really useful in the lockpicking kit, I think. You can make your shims out of them, shims for, whether it be for a padlock, some bike locks, the inner cylinder and the body aren't made right, so you can actually shim it through, like locksmiths do from the back to break it apart. And in this case, we can use the metal to make little, I guess you'll call them shims again, to stick in between the pins and the dials. So, what I'm doing is, I'm taking my little strip I just cut out of there, and I'm going to stick it in and turn the dial. What turning the dial does is it pushes the pen down so that I can stick this in, and then it pulls the piece of metal through. If you don't turn the dial, it usually just gets jammed up. So I'm sticking the strips through, I'm turning the dial, and it's pulling them through, and then I'm bending the edges over on each side. That way, when I start turning them later on, they don't get pulled through. Alright, so stick this last one through, turn the dial, pulls it through, bend it over. Okay, so now I've got my lock. Go ahead and set them to 0, 0, 0 just for fun. I don't know. And so now what I'm going to do is use the other technique that I've been messing with, which is just pulling the shackle really tightly. So pulling it really tightly, Okay, this thing, it's got a little tension on it, so. Let's see if I can get this. Alright, turn. Lots of tension, lots of tension. Alright, I think it's a 2. It just sort of fell right there. Now there's a lot of tension on this one. So I'm moving to my second dial. Just pulling a lot of tension on this one. Trying to keep this one at 2. Might be a 3. Just turning and I can't. Maybe a 7? Is it a 2 and a 7? I don't know. So then I go to my last one, and since I think I might have got the first 2, spin through the last one real quick. Nope, not a 2 and a 7. Maybe a 3 and a 7. Spinning through real quick. No. Switching back to 2. I'm going to try again on this style. I just did this a second ago with another combination that worked pretty well. Let's see if I can... Yeah, this is a pain. I'm starting to think it is not a 2. Maybe a 1. 1 and a 4? No. 1 and a 3. Yeah, it's going bad. 2. It's going to be a bad example. Yeah, it's got to be a 2. 1 and a 5. Ah, there we go. It was a 2. Yeah, that really hurts your finger on that. So anyways, the combination was 527, and that was the quick trick for the Master Sesame lock. And with 3 combinations, I'm guessing, because I haven't actually timed myself on how long it took me when I first found it, you know, I didn't know the trick, and I was bored one day, and I tried all the combinations, and I don't remember, I would guess, I don't know, maybe a rough guess, maybe 20 minutes or so to try all the possible combinations. When you'd really get into trouble is when you get, because they also make a 4-dial version of this, and then, you know, it'd be probably be closer to an hour or so to try all the combinations. And that's when I think this trick could probably be the most useful. But at the same time, it would also be more difficult, because, you know, well, it just is. Yeah, I'm not going to try and explain. I'll go through that right now. But anyways, as a general all over, this is probably one of my favorite little luggage locks. It's real decent. It's master. It's got I guess this is brass. Everything seems pretty sturdy. It's not like, you know, a lot of the other luggage locks you see around that you could just pop right open with some pliers, or, you know, hit it with a hammer. You know, just about anything would smash them open. This one actually is a pretty nice lock, which I just figures my cousin would pick. But anyways, that's the little shim trick. And yep. Oh, one other thing. I saw Brinks. Brinks is the only other person I've seen to use the pens, so I do not know how well the shim trick works on Brinks. Just to give you that heads up. They might actually, if this trick, you know, if some of you tried on a Brinks and it doesn't work on that, then that might actually be the best little luggage lock up there. Who knows? Alright then. That's it, and goodbye. I'm going to stop for a second before I press stop recording, because last time it didn't get the last few seconds. Now I'll press stop.